Hello everyone, welcome back. I'd like to start. So, apologies for being late from my side, I was in the wrong room. I'd like to divide this lecture in half. And then the first half I want to cover web accessibility. And in the second half I want to come back to mobile and responsive design, which we need for the assignment, for assignment 1. The accessibility part will come back in assignment 4. But I'm teaching you now because I hope you will notice when we're doing both parts, there are a lot of commonalities, right? So a lot of the things that you do to make your website work on different devices are very similar to the things you do to make your website work for different people. And so I'd like you to spot the differences, but certainly the commonalities between the two topics today. So this class started by a class from Guus Schreiber, and Guus Schreiber is now the dean of our faculty. So unfortunately he has no time to give this lecture. But Guus was a very early web user that suffered from very bad eyesight. So he was a kind of an experienced witness. Right, so he had a lot of experience himself by good and bad web design that allowed him to use or not use the websites. So we will see some examples of that. And then when Guus stopped giving this class, Victor de Boer took over. And Victor also couldn't make it today because he is in Ghana and he's doing research on making the web accessible for people that don't have internet access. So think about that, right? So how can you make the web work for people that don't have internet? And he uses all kinds of alternative techniques like phone SMS, but also radio and television programs to make web services accessible for people that don't have internet access. And also a lot of the issues that play a role in these circumstances are very similar in design thinking as the topics that we will deal with today. Okay, so first half will be accessibility, and the second half will be device independence and responsive design. So the initial goal of Tim Berners-Lee when he invented the web was to make internet accessible for a large group of people that were not computer scientists. Right? So he worked in his physics department at CERN. These people were not trained computer scientists, and they had big trouble accessing all the different programs that you needed to use to access the internet in those days. He wanted to change that. But when his program at CERN became more and more successful, very soon the web became a worldwide phenomenon, and Tim Berners-Lee realized that this goal should be much more ambitious, right? And he really wanted to make a system that is available for everyone, everywhere, on every device, in every place in the world. So this dream of Tim Berners-Lee to make this universal, accessible system, that is still one of the core goals of organizations like W3C and many others. So if you browse around a website like the one from W3C, you will recognize this goal is still there. And like I said, the content being available for many different people with different abilities is often, in design principles, very similar to making content available through different devices and different technical contexts. And of course, this dream in the absolute sense is kind of a dream that you will never realize, right? But I think we can certainly do better than we do now. I think we do now already a lot better than we did 10, 20 years ago. And so the goal to make this dream to come closer and closer to this dream is still a worthwhile effort to do. And to give you an example, this is what the homepage of the faculty looked like when you enlarge fonts think only 6 or 7 years ago. So this quickly becomes completely unreadable, right, for people that cannot read small fonts, like Gus. So this is, okay, it's longer ago, right? It's 2006, 2007. So it's longer ago than that. But you will see that if you go do the same today, like, things have improved a lot. So there's definitely progress here. And there are many reasons, good reasons to think about this and to make sure that your website as an organization is accessible for many people. First of all, in most countries, including the Netherlands, there are legal obligations. And so for many organizations, there is a legal need to do this. If you don't, you can be sued, and you will lose. You will have to first adapt and second, probably pay damage costs. But there's also more and more reasons that your target audience, right, if your commercial website, your potential customers are actually quite a large group of them, have some accessibility issue in one way or another, and we will see different forms of that in this class. And again, many of the things you can do to make your website more accessible are just general good design principles. Right? So by making your site better for people that have a visual impairment, it also becomes better for people with good eyesight. In the picture, in case you recognize him or didn't recognize him, this is Christopher Reeve, and I knew him because he played Superman when I was young in the film, but he had an unfortunate accident. He became completely paralyzed from the neck down, right? And after his accident, he became an activist for raising money for spinal cord injuries research. And he became very, very active despite his injuries. And he could only be active because of the web, right? He used the web as a way to reach people, to raise money. And he really needed the web to do what he wanted to do. And he could do that because of all these features that allow you to use the web, even if you're paralyzed from the neck down. So I think he's a kind of a really inspirational figure that helped me to realize, right, that yes, it's nice if people can access the web, but for some people it's really it's crucial, right? It's the only way they can do the things they want to do. And there are many other issues, right? So suppose I'm completely dependent on web shopping myself as a relatively healthy person, right? So think of persons that are disabled and are confined to home, right? If they cannot use a web shop because of some stupid design mistakes, right, that really impacts the lives of these people. And of course, right, this is Penn State University being accused of discriminating against blind students. As a university, you never want to be in the news for this kind of reasons, right? So also legal reasons and public image reasons are a reason why a lot of organizations spend a lot of attention to this, right? And if you work in an organization that doesn't, I think it's good for you and your organization to raise awareness for this type of potential risks. And a lot of these things are just mistakes that happen because the people that design the website just assume that everybody is like them, right? And everybody has the same device as they have. And of course, web developers typically use a very powerful desktop with a large screen and are very computer savvy. Right? This is not your average user, and it's not the average environment of this web user. So there are a lot of people that don't like 10-point text to read, right? Because it's just too small. There are people that don't use a keyboard. So if you design your website assuming that people will have a keyboard and a mouse, right, Right? You just completely ignore all mobile and tablet users, for example. So there are many simple things you can avoid by just realizing that there are people that are not like you in environments that are not like your environment. And there are a lot of prejudices and myths around this topic, right? So a lot of people say, well, our websites are not accessible because we think it's ugly to make them accessible. It's very expensive to make them accessible. We have to hire specialists. It's very expensive. It's very difficult to do so, and even it's not needed for my target audience. Right? And I think all of them are false. There's no reason why your site should become more ugly or uglier than it is by making it accessible. I think it should become even more aesthetically pleasing if you design it well for different groups and different devices. And also the other reasons, I think, if you design it from the start, there should be no reason why it's difficult or expensive. If you do your entire website and then as an afterthought you think, oops, I forgot to make it accessible and I have to redo it again, yes, then it's expensive. But if you do it from the start, there's no need to do so. So, I think there are a number of typical disabilities that you can think of if you are designing your site. There are a lot of different versions and varieties of visual impairment. Right? So there's blindness in all kinds of degrees, but also the people that are not completely blind but have low vision in some kind of another have various different kinds of low vision. Right? So there are people that can only see in their central focus field, right? But there's also people like Guus Schuiber, for example, he can see everywhere except in his focus field. So both variants occur. There are, of course, various versions of color blindness, and this typically occurs more often than people think. So what would be your estimate number of people that suffer from one kind of color blindness?
About 15%.
About 15%, right? So in this room there should be several people suffering from color blindness, and I think for most people 50% is a lot more than what you expect. And typically you know people that are colorblind, and you know that they're colorblind, but more likely you also know a lot of people that you don't know that are colorblind. So this is a really common issue, and catering for these people, once you are aware of it, is actually very simple. Right? It's not so difficult to make a site that is accessible equally for people that are colorblind and are not, but just take care of this. And there are many tools that help you check if your website has problems. Right? So these are color checkers and things like that. And we'll come back to that in a slide 4. The Superman example with Christopher Reeve was a typical example of people that have motor impairments. So they have some disability where they cannot as easily use the mouse or the keyboard or whatever as other people. And also there are a lot of variants of this, right? So assuming that everyone can click on a very small button, right, is one of these assumptions that can break for these kind of people. Can break websites for these kind of people. And then of course a wide range of cognitive limitations. And I think the last one is maybe the biggest group of people. And we'll come back to that. W3C has a long tradition in making guidelines for this topic. There is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, version 2. That has been a recommendation for more than 10 years now. There's a working group that's constantly revisiting the current issues for new technology developments that are still active. We will use the recommendation that's quoted here for assignment 4. So you will check the guidelines, right, and see if your own web page that you made for assignment 1, 2, and 3 actually conforms to the guidelines in this recommendation. So that's already a hint for what is going to be part of Sound 4. And these guidelines are based, I think, on a long tradition of research in this area, but also just practical experience from people that are disabled in one way or another themselves, people that design tools and technological tools for disabled people. And they've come up with 4 principles of accessibility. And I see people taking notes, that's fine, but I will put all these slides on canvas after the course. I will go quickly through these 4 principles, because I think they are very general, applicable to a wide range of technology solutions, not just websites, right? Also other information systems. So one principle is around trying to avoid problems around people not being able to perceive your content. Right? So, perception first is vision, but it can also be hearing or touch. Some people say smell, but any of these senses in principle can play a role here. And one of the principles in solving these problems is that if you use one sense in your website, that things are easily transformable to another sense, right? So if you use text and you assume that people will read it, it should be easy to transform it to audio by a speech reader. Or if you have an image, right, and you assume that people will see the image, it should also have some alternative text that can describe the content of the image for people that cannot see. So these being aware of different senses and how to transform from one sense to the other is what it is about in these perceivable principles. Perceivable principles. So the second one is being operable, right? So that means that if you have content, typically on the website, you need to be able to do something with it. If only navigation, but if you have a web shop, right, you need to be able to actually make the transaction. You need to be able to search a website. So there are many things you want to do in terms of interaction, and making sure that the interaction works for everyone is part of these operable principles. And one of the examples, for example, is that you don't assume these typical devices, right? We've seen it before, but also about timing. I was trying to get coffee from a machine in France during my holidays, and I wanted to pay with my phone. And because I think it was I was abroad, my phone required me to enter a PIN code, right? And I had actually 0.5 seconds in the system to enter my PIN code, and I couldn't enter my PIN code quick enough, so I couldn't get coffee. And I stopped using my phone, and I switched to my bank card, and I could put my bank card in front of the machine on time, and then I could get coffee. But if I wouldn't have my bank card, right, I would have had no coffee just because somebody assumed that the time needed for doing the transaction was just too short. Right? And in a crowded environment, right, I can understand that the designer wants to sell as many coffees as possible, so make all the timers really quick. But this was insane. This was I couldn't, not really, even if I wanted to, I couldn't do it. So things about user control and timing are important, but also about error recovery, right? So one of the things I really hate as a user is that if I make one mistake on a form, I need to do the entire form again. And that is more and more solved by now, but it definitely was a serious problem in the past. And you still see it on some websites, right? That you hit the submit button, there's one thing wrong, and you're back to square zero. So this is the second principle. The third principle is more about these cognitive issues, right? To make sure that it's understandable. And again here, making sure that your website is understandable for people with some cognitive problem. Typically also makes it more understandable for people that are that don't suffer from these problems. And make sure that your language is clear, right? That the meaning of the information that you try to convey is clear. But also that the functionality in terms of interaction is clear. These are all principles that are around this understandable. And then the last thing is maybe more a technical issue. It's about robustness, right? So making sure that it not only works today, it also works a year or 2 or 5 years from now. And the technology for normal web use changes all the time, but also these assistive technologies, right, like screen readers, they tend to change. And one thing you can do to make your website more robust is to adhere to these standards. Right? So simple things like these validators that you are required to use for assignment 1, that really helps. Because if your website at least conforms to all these standards and have no syntax errors, like the chances that these wide range of technologies that you will never use yourself and you will never test your website with will still work, increases a lot if you just conform to these standards. So one simple example in this colorblind thing, right? So click on the green button to continue, right? That is just something that is so easy to avoid by making a design like this, right? So you add continue and cancel as a text to the buttons, but also see that the text is just way shorter, right? So I think the design below is not only better for people that are colorblind, it's also better for people like me, because I can just quit here and make my choice. So there's a lot of assistive technology. So for blind web users, there are screen readers, right? So they help a lot, but also have their own limitations. So there are a lot of tools, those example videos on the web that allow you to simulate what your website looks like or sounds like if you would use a screen reader. And you would see that for normal text it works quite okay, but there are a lot of things that make it work less good. So images are a problem, especially if they have no text alternative. Right? So every image in a good web design should have some descriptive alt text attribute, and if they don't, images are a real problem in these screen readers. But also things like big tables can be problematic. I also have seen websites that no job today, but I've seen websites that have a sidebar, for example, right, with lots of links, sometimes 30, 40 links, and then a big area with the main content. And I, as a visual user, I just skip the links and then go directly to the web content. But if your design of your website is wrong and your screen reader starts to read out loud all the 30, 40 links with the destinations, right, it takes an hour before your user gets to the main content. And they probably have cancelled the whole page view or page read before they get to the main content. So long lists that you assume your users will skip, make sure that the voice browser screen reader can also skip them. Keyboard accessibility is another issue. So people that don't use a mouse but only use a keyboard, can they quickly navigate your website? Right? Can they go from one link to another link without using the mouse by just typing keyboard shortcuts? Can they fill in the form by just entering the text in the keyboard and use the tab button to move to the next field in the form without using the mouse? These things really help for people that are visually impaired or that don't have a mouse, but they also really help for normal people that are just quicker by using the keyboard than by moving their hands from the keyboard to the mouse every time they need to go to the next field in the form. And the examples I urge you to explore yourself. So one way to make life better for people using screen users, but also for ordinary web users, is to think about how you design your links, your hyperlinks. So one way is that if a piece of text is a link, right? It has a link markup. There's a link markup in your HTML, right? There's an A, href, whatever around it, and the screen reader will know it is a link. So you don't need to tell the screen reader it's a link, because the screen reader will say this is a link, and then have your text. And if you say again it's a link, it's just repeated information. So don't say in a link as alternative text this is a link, because the screen reader already knows, and there's no way to do so. Also note that for a lot of people, just going through the links on the website, the outgoing links, is a way to quickly get a summary of the contents of the website. Right? So you just go through all the anchor text of all links, and you get a notion of, okay, what is this link, what is this website pointing to? And then if you have good descriptive anchors, that really helps. So anchors that say click here, right, that don't really help a lot. So if you have a link to chapter 5, just call the anchor text chapter 5 and not click here for chapter 5, because that makes this stepping a lot quicker. But also note that visual users also do this. Right? They quickly skim the blue text on your website to check for outgoing links, and they will have the same benefits as these visual impaired users. I'll leave it at that for this. So this is about being able to zoom in. Right? If you're visually impaired and things are too small for you, it's nice if you can zoom in. Here the problems are very similar to being able to zoom in for things that become very small because you use a very high resolution screen. Right? So if you have a phone with a very high resolution screen, you have more pixels on your small screen than desktop users used to have on a big screen only 5 years ago. So if you have the same resolution, the same technology, things become really, really small, and you want to be able to zoom. The same is true for people with low vision. They want to zoom even more than you want, and making sure that that works really helps this type of people. Also, there are a lot of people that need more contrast, right? So light gray on dark gray or vice versa might look very aesthetically pleasing for a lot of designers. It doesn't work for a lot of people with bad sight or bad sight. So allowing people to override this, I think is really important. Right? So this is part of this. Don't use the exclamation mark important feature of CSS unless you really, really know what you're doing, because that typically avoids that people override your designs if they have good reasons to do so. And also, what is a good design strategy is to prevent horizontal scrolling, right? Because people are used to vertical scrolling, and people with bad eyesight will automatically check if there's more content below the fault line and scroll up. But they typically miss that there's also more content that's only accessible by horizontal scrolling. So that's a good, I think, a good design to prevent. And again, this is also a very good design principle for example, for mobile users, because most mobile users also dislike horizontal scrolling. This is a feature, even if they know they have to do it. And one of the reasons, one of the means to achieve this goal is by using relative size definitions in your CSS. And we will come back to that after the break, when we will do this responsive web design. So the highlighted light green area here is the focus of the assistive technology, right? So it focuses only on this. So this is a tool, for example, sometimes used for people that are distracted easily, right? They have this highlight area where they focus their attention to. But then if you have feedback about the form that is outside this field, it will be very hard for people to discover this, right? So keeping your information as close as possible, so you don't need to scroll completely down, for example, to find the submit button, to find your OK button, is a design principle that is key for these people, but it's also very convenient for other users. I'll skip the JavaScript for the next part. So one other way that mobile really helped making websites more accessible is by the fact that the most mobile browsers did not support plugins. Right? And so a lot of websites before mobile became popular, for example, used Flash content that required a Flash plugin, which made all content that was in the Flash plugin completely inaccessible for screen readers that didn't support Flash. And the fact that both Safari on the iPhone and the Android browsers did not support Flash caused websites to abandon Flash very quickly, and this was a very fortunate development for a lot of impaired users that required this assistive technology that didn't work with Flash. And I think by the success of these mobile devices, now Flash is, I don't remember seeing a Flash designed website except for the educational environment of my children that still uses Flash. But even my children complain about this because it means that they cannot access the website on their phone or on their tablet. And so this really helps a lot. Also think about captions, right? For audio and video content. Almost all formats now support this. And if you do this as an afterthought, providing captions for all your videos is a lot of work and very expensive. But if you do this while you're designing your video, like there's always a script somewhere that you can use to very easily generate your captions from the beginning. And unless you're doing this type of exercise I'm doing, right, where all the text is ad-lib and not